Happy Halloween Eve, as it's time to get into some grades. This time of the school year, as we're nearing the end of October, Halloween tomorrow. Hope you all had a great Halloween weekend. We're also getting into some report cards, some grading. Welcome to PHLY Phillies podcast. Jamie Lynch, Tyler Zulli, Renee Washington here. And now that we're into the off season, and yes, we have swallowed our pride, licked our wounds, found some closure last week. We've got a lot to get into today.
Wait, we found closure?
I don't know.
Speak for yourself. I'm still hurt.
I'm trying to speak it into existence, Jamie.
I'm trying
to
no closure.
Continue to speak it into existence.
I saw, a bunch of people over the weekend, some old high school buddies, some old, friends and family, and it was just like, I literally met buddies on Friday for lunch for a burger and a beer just so we could talk about it. Like, what?
That didn't give you any closure?
No, it just made things worse.
You mean watching the first two games of the World Series
we'll talk
play
about
out
that
didn't
later,
give you any closure?
I haven't even watched it yet. I'm still hurt. So I have no closure yet. I'm still confounded as to why that happened.
I will say what makes
I get it, but I can't get it.
Yeah. What makes it harder is I still get, I've got the Major League Baseball app. I've got a lot of different apps, ESPN
you love
app.
Notifications.
I get all the notifications.
You're crazy.
And the notifications were great when the Phillies were still playing because I was getting Phillies notifications. And now I'm getting World Series notifications without the Phillies. So I will say it's kind of like, I'm going to go back to my dating reference that I used on Friday. When you're dating somebody and you may have their notifications turned on, but you forget to turn them off and you're still getting those updates on your ex. Not that I've ever had notifications. Never had notifications on for a person like that. But yeah, I'm still getting updates of the ex of like they've still gone on.
It's not good for you.
It's not good. It's not good at all. I'm gonna just
turn
keep
your notifications
claiming.
off. Dive into the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers, and join us here.
And there's some positives. That's why I feel like I'm a little bit happier because at least there's some. When you look around Philly sports right now, everybody else is winning.
Yeah, that's a nice distraction from where we are, which is still licking our wounds.
Eagles becoming the first team in the league to have 7 wins also made me feel a little bit better because I was able to trash talk. Niners, you dropped 3 in a row. But yeah, look, the Phillies, with every day, I feel like we're getting stronger, right, Tyler? Are you feeling a little bit better?
Yeah, I think probably, objectively speaking, sure. Feeling a little bit better.
I need the World Series to be over so that I can fully heal.
Yeah.
I need baseball to end.
It is hard to have baseball still playing without the Phillies. Is this how other teams felt last season? Because it's been a while. It's been, we got a little spoiled. It's been a little while since we've had a chance to see baseball without the Phillies. Like, that's weird. It's just it's odd.
I went full on masochist Friday night, and I sat in the PHNX chat after the game game 1.
Didn't.
Oh, I did. I watched like a half an hour of the show.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Because I almost wanted some kind of like they were in pain, so it felt better for me. But it
you're
didn't.
that kind of an ex.
But it didn't. It didn't feel good at all. I sat there and I'm like, I'd still rather be doing this show. Like, I'd rather us be having a World Series Game 1 loss post game than not doing it at all.
Well, they appreciate you in there. Did you hit the like button while you were in there?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah,
that's nice of you. That was kind. You gave a like. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button too as you're trickling in.
And look, I don't hate the Diamondbacks. I still find myself, and you're going to tell me I'm probably irrational, still find myself like pretty upset with Garrett Stubbs.
I've moved on from that.
I haven't.
I know. That's living rent-free in your head.
Yeah.
For sure.
Why?
I don't know.
Because I don't mean why is it in my head. I mean, why did he say those things?
No, I know what you're asking about.
Why? Why did you say that, Garrett? We all liked you. The locker room loves you. The city loved you. And you said
it was the moment you put your foot in your mouth and you were hoping it wouldn't come back to bite the Phillies. And unfortunately, now that comment you can't unhear because it absolutely was. No, yours is Garrett. Mine is it's Craig, but that's everybody's. So I don't know that's not something special.
And I maybe it's the soy boy in me. I felt bad for him reading his comments. Like,
you're becoming a softie.
I think fatherhood's done that to me. But like his comments, he was down bad, and he knows he let his teammates down, and he let the city down, and you have to get booed in front of your home crowd in the playoffs. Like, that's a tough pill to swallow for a guy that's going to be in Canton one day. So, or not Canton, excuse me, Cooperstown.
I think my issue is, for whatever reason, there's a lot of very soft Phillies fans, and I'm lumping you in that group, Jamie.
I'm not soft. I just have empathy for others.
I have empathy.
Well, apparently not.
But
you
I
might be a
also
serial
empathize
killer,
with the fact that, like, you have a job to do, and if you don't perform
He
that
failed
job,
at
we're
it.
not going to cheer you on and be happy for you. It's like if we come in here and do a terrible job, people aren't going to continue to just let us do that. You know, it's accountability. That's how you make people better.
Yeah,
and so I
soiled
empathize.
himself.
He definitely soiled himself.
But like he didn't hide. You know what I mean? Like when you own your failures,
that is true.
I feel like it empathizes you. If he just went out there and was like, "Oh, I made one bad pitch, and it is what it is. That's baseball," I'd be like, "Okay, like I wish you cared a little bit more about us, what we were going through." But he was like, "I failed my teammates. I failed my manager. Like I could read his his heart breaking," and I was just like,
that does hurt.
That's tough. Not that I loved Kimbrel or anything, but it was the turning point in the season, Game 3 and Game 4, and Rob Thompson's uses of him.
Yeah,
that's it's a tough one.
Yeah, that is tough. Well, while you guys are here, make sure you're hitting the like button. I know we got a thumbs down. I don't know if that's because you disagreed with us, but hey, make that thumbs down a thumbs up. We
Turn
just
that
started
smile
here.
upside
Yeah,
down,
it's
or turn
Monday.
that
It's a
frown
good day
upside down.
outside.
Was that
We're
Toys R
not
Us?
thrilled.
Turn your frown upside down.
Turn that frown upside down.
Was that
make
Toys
it
R
a
Us?
smile and let it last for a while?
Yeah, you're Miss Jingle. Come on. Well, what is it? Am I right?
I don't know actually.
I think it was.
I never knew that was with a specific store. I thought that was just
I could
Google
be-
it. Google it. Turn that frown upside down. Make it a smile. Let it last for a while. Make that thumbs down a thumbs up because we're not talking anything bad here. I have empathy. I feel like
Kitty
I come on
City?
here and come across as a cold-hearted person, and I'm not. But I'm a very warm and fuzzy-hearted person. and I
Lionel
just,
Kitty City?
What?
I think it was a
That's
show.
the jingle?
This is 80s stuff. You kids don't know.
Wait, that's what it's from?
Lionel Kitty City.
Lionel Kitty City?
Yeah, I think this was a store.
I don't know why repeating it makes me feel like I'm going to understand it. I
Maybe it was
still
a
do
show.
not.
I don't know. Anyway, moving.
What is that? Is that
This
Lionel
is the
Kitty
commercial.
City?
Yeah, with the kangaroo. Turn
Okay, I
that frown.
actually remember that kangaroo
Yeah.
briefly, but not that old woman
Yeah, turn
or
that
anything
frown
else.
upside down at Lionel Kitty City.
Okay, moving
Yeah,
along.
there we go. So I'm not crazy.
Google
Jamie's gonna get us copyright striked from a
No,
commercial from
literally,
30
you're
years
playing
ago.
things that we're not allowed to play. But as we're digesting, we're processing. Kitty City was a toy store, Brian is saying.
Yeah, it was like a toy. So I was in the wheelhouse with Toys R Us.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know that. Tyler, do you know Kitty City? Is it just me?
Nope.
Nah, this is 80s. This is way before you guys.
I just like to clarify with Tyler to make sure it's not just
No,
me because
yeah. I knew it
I
as
like
soon
to
as it
think I
came
had
out
a
of my
very
mouth.
yeah. You're like
I was like, I aged myself again. I did.
I had
it.
a very cultured, aware upbringing, but I don't know about that one. So as we're talking, you mentioned the comments by Craig Kimbrel was.
I just felt for him.
It was tough, but there's been a lot of comments that have come out since then. Of course, now it's those postseason initial pressers before they have a chance to really dive into things. I know we were talking about Dave Dombrowski's comments on our Friday show. We did miss a couple talking points, Jamie, that I know you wanted to hit on before we get into our official report card. What are some of those?
Yeah, and we are going to be grading a different position group each day this week. Today we're going to kick it off with the starting pitcher grade as we kind of look back on the season as we're licking our wounds. But yeah, Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson talked last Thursday. I again listened to it. This is how bad I'm down. I listened to Dave Dombrowski. There was like 6 minutes I didn't finish at the end. I went back on Friday and listened to it. Like
It's okay.
That's a low point.
It's okay.
But and looking at some of my notes from Friday and then the rest of the stuff, some of the things we didn't hit on Friday, it fully sounds like there's going to be a Rob Thompson extension here. I would think in the coming weeks. My guess is they only extend him 1 year, maybe 2, so that he's not a lame duck manager. I wonder how you feel about that, how Tyler feels about that, how the comment section feels about that. I personally think Rob Thompson's a pretty good manager. Was there some decisions I want back? Yeah, absolutely. Don't go to Craig Kimbrel in games 3 and 4. Maybe be a little more aggressive in your Rojas pinch hitting. Some things here and there. But overall, I think, he has a blueprint for success with this team, and hopefully in the future things go a little bit better. But I'm totally cool with a Rob Thompson extension. How do you feel? And then we'll ask Tyler. And if you commenters want to chime in on how you feel about a Thompson extension, we'd love to hear from you.
One more Topper. That's all I got.
You're good for one. So are you okay if they
more,
extend him one more year so that he's not lame duck?
Yeah.
And then just judge it off of next year?
And then judge it off next year. I think that this season, unfortunately, puts us at a crossroad where you, as you mentioned, it's not fully on Rob Thompson. I know I've said I don't like a lot of decisions down the stretch by Thompson, but one more year gives you enough wiggle room to show we've got faith in you, we're going to invest in you, but we're not fully sold. You've got to prove it.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to look at it. No manager really wants to be a lame duck manager. I know Thompson said he doesn't really think about that stuff, and it's not how he goes about his career. Tyler, if they are to offer him, let's say it's a 2-year extension.
Sure.
You're in?
Yeah, I am, because one of my main thought processes behind any type of managerial head coaching change is that the person that you are bringing in, now there's times where that doesn't apply, like if somebody's just been so bad it doesn't matter, but the person that you're bringing in needs to be greater than or equal to the person that you're replacing. And I think right now Rob Thompson is the greater than or equal to. Listen, the guy went to a World Series. He went to an NLCS, and I understand that there are frustrations amongst some of the decisions, like you brought up.
Yeah.
But I think more times than not, he's been a plus for this team. And when you look at the landscape of who might be available, like the only name that jumps out that's not a first-time manager is Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
And I don't like Craig Counsell nearly as much as a lot of people like Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, and I think that's more than fair way to look at it. George McBain in the chat says he agrees with you, Renee. One more year to see. I would be fine if they gave him a 2-year extension, making it 3 years in total. But yeah, it's all kind of the same thing.
I think my biggest thing is the fact that although Topper did a great job breaking the playoff drought, getting to the World Series, getting back to the NLCS this year, my concern is the way the Phillies lost. Had they lost, and I'm actually going to take the World Series, for example. Those are two, the first game especially, from what I know, was a good game. Like, if you're losing games where it's just a back and forth battle, and I've said this many times, but I'm just going to repeat it. Back and forth battle, someone's got to lose, and it's your team that's on the wrong side of the result. Understandable. But to have losses with the same issues over and over again, that to me is what's concerning, which is why I say one more year. Now, I do agree with what you're saying in the chat, Dustin, about Topper can't control Kyle Turner, Harper, Cassie. Absolutely can't control the fact they went 1 for 28. The numbers weren't great the final 2 games. He's not out there batting, pitching, catching, but neither is any other coach. And when do we ever let a coach in any sport slide when their team underperforms?
Never.
And the Phillies this season underperformed. So that's why I'm like, Phillies fans sometimes have gotten a little bit soft. Not all, but there are some that are like, oh, it's okay. It's not Topper's fault. Okay, well, Doc Rivers was out when the Sixers lost. Brett Brown was out. We've seen Chip Kelly. We've seen coaches taken out and removed, and it's not them on the field ever or on the court ever.
That's
but they're the ones making.
Why it's only one more year, because he has done
so
that.
that's my 1 year reasoning. It's like I like a lot of the positives. There were games we were like very high on Topper. His decisions were great, and then there were games that were not. And you are doing a fantastic job, as we talk about success, getting the team to this point. But to get to that next point, right now, Topper hasn't shown that he can make the adjustments because it's been the same issues back to back.
Yeah, and what up, Spiral Out? Thanks for joining us. Space Letter says, how many more NLCSs do you think we'll see in the next 2 to 3 years? Do we trust him?
That's the other thing.
With that single opportunity? Well, here is what I think is an extreme positive for Topper, is the Atlanta Braves factor. The Atlanta Braves are pretty much always going to be there for the foreseeable future with the talent they have in that organization. He's shown you in back-to-back years that they're not intimidated by the Braves. They have the Braves' numbers when the games matter most. So, like, losing to a pesky Diamondbacks team was almost better to me than, like, going out to the Braves. I think that Braves factor is something sustainable and something you can build off of. And I think that's when you look at the NL, you're probably going to have to go through one of Atlanta or LA in all likelihood. And Topper has a good track record here with the Braves.
He does. MBDBDBF is saying,
I can't believe how well you do that.
Just
MBDB.
DBF.
Yeah. It's really hard. I can't do it. You're very talented.
I think it's a point of pride for Renee at this point. Like you're really happy with yourself on that one.
I would be too if I were. I mean,
it's his
I can't
name.
do
I'm just reading his name. MBDBDBF.
Yeah, but it's hard.
There's 3 B's in there. Every other letter is a B.
Still not easy.
MBDBD. Nah, I'm
You're
like
very
overthinking it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's because I know how to spit bars. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So MBDBDBF was saying that Topper's not perfect, but preside over team, position to win it all 2 years in a row. On balance, he deserves to keep his job. Need him to give a little bit more. I agree. I agree with you also, Dustin. Again,
Sure.
your point that baseball is different in how you're managing the team. It's not the same as other sports, but you're still a coach. And we're not. I am in terms of pride. MBD is fine. As someone that's been watching this team and absolutely loving the fact that Topper got them here, but I'm also not complacent with that. And I know we said it's been 2 successful years. Yes, it has been successful, but it hasn't been successful enough. So that's why I say 1 more year, because I'd love to see, okay, next year, after the past 2 seasons, there's clearly some consistent adjustments that we see that need to be made. If they're made, if this team is, and I don't even need them to win a World Series to call it a success. Obviously, that would be the ultimate success. To me, it's just better losses. I think, if that makes sense. Like, I cannot stand the fact that in last year and this year, the postseason, it's scoreless losses, it's 1 run, it's a lack of hitting. Like,
yeah, I think there was a couple
my issue.
instances, like the Trey Turner bunt to get a guy over to second that eventually would have scored on. Like, those things are probably Topper related, but for the most part, I put this more on the players. And sure, does his working with Kevin Long and the hitting coach and their approach at the plate need to be better? Absolutely, because Arizona in Game 3 just goes, wait, why are we going to give you anything to hit with your guys that can do damage? We're not going to do that. But I do agree with George McBain also that he still didn't like the no lineup changes during the NLCS, though. I completely agree. I think definitely after Game 3, but I contemplated it after Game 2. JT Realmuto would have been my cleanup hitter. Alec Bohm would have moved down. It took all the way till Game 7 for Bohm to give you anything.
Yeah.
But I think that was a mistake by Topper. Is it a fireable offense? I don't think so, but if it happens again next year to what we've been talking about, then yeah, I think that very much is on the table as like, all right, you've gotten us close, but you can't get us over the top here. So I think that's a fair way to look at it. No, Diamondbacks fan, we're not trying to spin the loss. This guy's trying to spin the loss. I mean, we lost. Our best players showed up very tiny and let us down. I don't think there's any spinning here.
Make sure you hit that like button while you're here.
Yeah, while you're here, please hit that like button, fake avatar guy. But I don't think anybody's trying to spin it as we lost. Our backup catcher made a stupid comment that gave the Diamondbacks a renewed sense of life, and they went back to their home ballpark, defended it, and then came into Citizens Bank Park in Game 6 and 7, which nobody else had been able to do until that point, and kicked our teeth in. I don't think either of us are spinning losses. I think we're living in reality. Our reality just sucks. That's all.
Well, I think going back to your other point, Jamie, before you're talking about us not spinning losses, I think another thing that I'm keeping in mind is every team has a different combination identity, of how the players, the coaches, work together, what that winning culture is like. And I also am not one to assume that just because this team has a culture that can get you to the World Series, to the NLCS, that it's got the right makeup to win it all. And that's why I also say 1 more year, because I think 1 more year allows you to assess, okay, maybe this group has enough in them to be able to be a top team in the National League, to be in the NLCS, to be knocking on the door for a World Series, to be knocking on the door for a championship, but something's off that's helping them to get over that hump. Now, whether you think that's Topper, or you think that's the players or something else, totally different. But that's where it's like, for everybody, I'm not one to want to just hit the panic button, because this season was still a great season when you look at overall, but it's still evident that there's a need to change something, because the Phillies are sitting at home right now and not at the World Series. So without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And MBD, thank you for letting us abbreviate that. Kind of brings us to our next talking point from Dave Dombrowski last week, which was something I kind of missed the first go-around when I listened to him. But, Rojas was hopeless at the plate in that series. And I think to expect something great in the batter's box was probably unfair. It's clear he was overmatched. He's still very young. Probably, ideally, shouldn't have been in that spot. But his defense is perhaps the best in the major league at the center field position, which come playoff time can save you a couple runs here and there. So I get the decision. Should he have been sat and pinch hit for a little bit more aggressively during that series? Yeah, absolutely. But Dave Dombrowski said something, and the way he was talking about Rojas, again, he wasn't spinning the loss. He was talking about reality, and he said, Rojas did struggle at the plate in that series. My inference from just listening to it is that Johan Rojas is probably going to start next year in the minor leagues. That's kind of what I gathered from Dave Dombrowski. Again, the entire direction of the Phillies offseason hinges on Bryce Harper's decision as to where to play the field. So I would assume Brandon Marsh is going to be your left fielder. Christian Pache is going to be your center fielder on opening day. But that does lead me to believe they're probably going to end up in the market for a veteran center field type / bench bat if Rojas truly is going to start the year in the minors to develop that bat, get more looks, work on his hitting, yada, yada, yada. So it's very possible that the NLCS starting center fielder for 7 games is going to start next year in the minor leagues. That was just me reading between the lines, but that's kind of what I took away from it.
That's sports for you. It's wild when you think about it. But I do think that for Rojas, what he brings to center field is fantastic, but it's not something where you absolutely have to have him out there. Pache, Marsh, depending on what happens with Reese and Bryce, where he ends up, if he's on first base or not, or not. It's just, you don't have to have Rojas there, especially with him giving you nothing at bat. And so I think it's a great opportunity if he can go work on the batting side and get better at that, to at least be someone that's similar to what Marsh actually brings. Brandon Marsh was a guy that just got a hit, got a walk, was able to keep the inning alive here and there. You just need something from Rojas. And I love what he brings as a center fielder. It's frustrating, unfortunately, to see him at the plate. I know MBD, I'll say MBD, since not everybody can say it is great, is saying, sending him to the plate with no chance, putting him in a position to fail, without a doubt. So go give him some reps, let him build up his confidence, let him work on his swing, and hopefully get back to and be in a position where he can help the team, because I'd love to be able to have this group have a little bit more versatility, that, okay, maybe sometimes it's Rojas at center field, maybe sometimes it's Marsh, and you have Bryce is out in right field, whatever, changes that you're able to make because you have a little bit more fluidity in that sense, that depending on what the game calls for, you can make some tweaks. But Rojas definitely needs to be better. And I think, unfortunately, moving back to AAA will help him do that. Just confidence is this game is so mental. So to have that opportunity
and look,
would be
Christian
huge.
Pache defensively is a drop-off. Anybody's a drop-off defensively, but he's not that big of a drop-off. And I thought Pache under Kevin Long and the coaching staff this year actually took some pretty big strides. And, at times I bet the A's regretted that trade with how good he looked at the plate. So the other possibility, if Rojas is down in the minors, that does kind of at least take an outfielder off of the Jenga puzzle you're trying to figure out here.
Right.
Assuming that Bryce Harper, my assumption right now is that Bryce Harper is going to go back to right field. Because I think, like we talked about last week, giving Reese that 1 year, kind of prove it above market. There's no bad 1 year deals in baseball. Is kind of my perspective. I just have a feeling that they're going to pay him an above average salary for a first baseman for 1 year as a prove it before a long term thing. And if that's the case, then Bryce is back in right. Maybe if Castellanos isn't moved, which I don't think he will be because of the money attached, maybe you could try him out in left field. I know that's a little sketchy, and you could platoon Marsh and Pache in center field, and that way you wouldn't have to explore free agency for that veteran every, 2 to 3 starts a week kind of guy. That's another possibility. But the idea of Castellanos in left field terrifies me. But then again, I'm a Phillies fan. I've watched Pat Burrell and Rhys Hoskins and some truly bad left fielders over the years. So I guess you can't hurt me anymore. But that, and then Schwarber obviously is the DH. But that kind of appeals to me a little bit. Because I've already accepted, for the most part, bad defense in left field because Kyle Schwarber played it the last 2 years. So, like, if Castellanos went to left, Bryce was back in right, and Pache and Marsh were the center fielder platoon, I think I'm pretty much on board with that.
Yeah, and again, that with Rhys being in the lineup does allow that if Rhys is not performing well at any point, you can move Bryce to first base. You can slide Marsh over. So there's flexibility, which I think is something that as we were getting into the postseason and we were kind of like, well, what moves would you make? Now you'd have the ability that depending on how Rhys returns, how Marsh is playing, whether it's Marsh or Pache, you have some movement there. You have Rojas that in the back of your pocket. I know Justin Harris is saying in the chat, y'all don't think it would hurt his confidence moving back down for Rojas.
No.
Look, Rojas had 4 hits in the entire postseason.
He's such a kid. I don't think
and he didn't have any hits against the Braves, 1 against Miami, 3 against
brutal.
the Diamondbacks. But more importantly, when you look at that Arizona series, I think it kills your confidence more to have bases loaded. You're up to bat in the 4th inning and you're out. You're not able to keep the inning alive. So, on what side would you rather have the confidence built? Yes, you can say him being with the Phillies might build his confidence, but not if he continues to struggle at bat because he's not going to be able to get those reps. You're not going to be able to get that confidence of hitting the ball. And that's the most important thing, is to see yourself hitting the ball consistently is going to go such a long way.
And I think there's something to starting the year in the minors as opposed to starting it in the majors, struggling again,
and then moving back.
And then getting sent back down.
A good point.
So I think it's almost better mentally, Justin, if he starts the year down there and then give him,
and have a great conversation with them.
Yeah, and have the checklist of things you want to see improve. Whether it's bunting, drag hitting, whatever his niche is, you need that speed on the base pass if he's going to be contributing daily to the big league club. So those are some possibilities. And
long term, that helps his development.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're not just talking short term as we talk about. Rojas' ability as a center fielder is fantastic.
Yeah.
What he was able to accomplish in just the short time he was with the Phillies in the majors is huge. So if you can get him and have that's where you have that great as a manager. You have that, anybody's talking to him about, look, you have all the pieces on the defensive side. Let's get you going offensively. And now you're lights out. So, great question, Justin.
He's going to be a 4-WAR player just from his defense alone, which is insane.
So
to
imagine
think
if he could hit the ball.
I know. So if he can just develop, that Bryson Stott gene where he's seeing 7 to 10 pitches in a lot of at-bats and fouling stuff off and just getting a better command of the zone and all that. The ceiling really is, very high for that kid. But he's got to develop that bat more. He got exposed in the playoffs.
I know Brian's also bringing up Mike Trout.
I personally don't want Mike Trout.
I don't either. I think years ago.
Yeah,
but not now.
He's just broken down like the last 4 years. I've had him in a dynasty fantasy baseball league, and he's broken my heart. Because I just can't count on him anymore. Would I want a healthy Mike Trout playing center field? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but he's not able to stay healthy.
I just don't think it's going to happen. So,
are you surprised that I didn't want Trout?
Slightly.
Why?
Because I feel like most people do.
See,
I thought I was in the somewhat unique school of no thanks.
I'm very much the type of sports mind that I don't just want all the best players, because sports is about more than just that. You can't say let's just bring in every guy that's a top player in the league and we're now going to win the World Series. It's not how it goes. First of all, you stay healthy, as you mentioned, and Mike Trout has proven he's not able to stay healthy the last few years. I love the fact that he's from Millville, New Jersey. My family's from there.
He's
that's where they're born.
Tiger Woods golf course.
Yeah, my family, my mom's side is literally born and raised in Millville.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. So, I love that part, but that's not going to win games. Yeah. And so from an actual baseball perspective, there's so much more to it. Chemistry, how pieces fit together. It's a puzzle that you're putting together.
But
so
if he wants to invite us out to his new golf course that opens next year.
I will take that. And you know what? We can have that conversation out at the golf course, Mike.
Yeah,
I mean, let's talk about it. Let's figure out if you want with the Phillies. Let's talk over some golf. I don't even golf well like you do. I'm not nearly as talented as you are.
No, I don't golf well. I just golf. There's a big difference between golfing well and being an 18 handicap like myself. Let's get to a couple other
Wait a minute. Eugene Krabs is giving you a huge compliment over there, saying that lavender shirt and Kelly green hat, top notch fit, looking better than me.
See, I never think about really much when I leave the house.
I'm rocking the Halloween colors. You're going more.
I don't know what I was.
I don't know what.
I just went what was. I never think about the hat matching the out. So the
only green and purple I can think of is Barney, because my niece is now in a Barney phase, and so that's the only green purple.
I didn't know
Baby
Barney
Bop.
was still popping.
Barney, Sesame Street.
Right. Yeah, we're a big
Your
Sesame
kiddos
Street.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Barney, we never got into. No.
Well, you are an international fashion icon according to MPDBF, so there you go.
Yes, as my wife would always tell you. I do want to wrap a bow on the Thompson comments before we get to our starting pitching grades, because I'm excited to go through all those. A couple other things we didn't hit on Friday. It does seem like Aaron Nola is, by leaps and bounds, the number one priority of the Phillies offseason. Way more so than Rhys Hoskins, judging by Dave Dombrowski's comments. My takeaway was, oh, wow, they might go damn near all in for Nola.
Yeah.
And, he said we wanted to get it done last year. If you look at the free agent starting pitching, like we briefly did last week, we'll look at it again in the coming weeks, especially as winter meetings start to heat up and all that stuff in December. It's not good. So Aaron Nola is, even though he had a down year for Aaron Nola, it's still one of the best out there, and I do believe it's the number one priority of the Phillies.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Are you good with that?
I like Aaron Nola.
Okay.
I'm not a cold-hearted person. I'm a fan of Nola.
I think the popular opinion right now, overwhelmingly, is don't pay open market value for Aaron Nola. Like, I think people always think the grass is greener on the other side, and I don't know if there's greener grass this year. So
it's greener where you water it is how I always look at it in life. The grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it.
I can speak of this as a washed suburban dad now.
It
is not easy.
Well, the thing is, much like I was just talking about with Mike Trout, it's the same concept for Aaron Nola. It's you have to look bigger picture. Okay, is it simpler to just constantly move guys in and out and bring in whoever's hot and trending in the right direction? Yeah, but there's more to a team's makeup than that. And if Aaron Nola is going to be your number two, okay, let's figure out financially what that makes sense for. And maybe now, instead of focusing on Nola, you're focusing on the other pieces, which for me is what's more important. Who are your relief pitchers? Who's your closer? We know Jose Alvarado's been steady. We love what Alvarado's been doing. Hoffman. Okay, who else? So that's more where I'm analyzing in terms of pitching. It's not all on Nola. There were definitely some dips. We'll talk about Nola's grade, of course. But I'm all for paying Nola because it also, like you mentioned, who else are you going to bring in? Why?
Yeah.
Just move him just to move him? Yeah. Just to bring in somebody else and have the same issues with whoever else you're bringing in, if not worse?
I mean, we're probably talking 185 to 195, $200 million range. For Nola, MBD says, I want no part of Blake Snell. I'm kind of with you. Like, to me, he reeks of a guy that had his career year and a contract year and will kind of revert back to normal. And you know
what you're going to get from Aaron Nola.
Solid, but I think Nola has a much longer track record.
Correct.
And is more consistent, like you said. So, that is interesting that Nola does appear to be their number one priority. There's a Yamamoto from Japan, which could be fun, but sure from something you can bank on and know you have a top of the rotation type of guy. It kind of does suck that Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, and Griff McGarry, judging from Dombrowski's comments, Painter's off the table next year altogether, but McGarry and Abel did not take the steps needed to possibly be an opening day rotation guy. So at best, those guys can help you in season a little bit. But you're gonna have to get a little creative here. I see some people in the chat talking about Sonny Gray. Mm-hmm. Okay, Stroman. Okay, like it's just like all kind of okay.
Yeah.
Like they're okay, but at what cost? I'd rather just roll the dice on Nola.
Stick with what you have. You know what you're gonna get from Nola. You've got to cringe a little bit maybe sometimes in the fourth or fifth inning, but you know what you're going to get from Nola. And so I'm also for, I'm not a risk taker in that sense of moving players just to move players. Now you're disrupting the clubhouse a little bit more. And if this was Craig Kimber, we're talking about totally different conversation. But I don't think that Aaron Nola's dropped enough where you can absolutely bet on somebody else instead of betting on Aaron Nola. I'm going to stick with Nola. Are you good on your final points from Dombrowski?
The final one was he's not going to flip Stott and Turner in the infield. I didn't think that was a possibility, but he was asked about it, and he basically said, no, Bryson Stott's, a Gold Glove candidate.
Yeah.
He's one of the 3 best at his position defensively, so I don't really want to tinker with that. And he did say that Trey Turner, he believes is going to be better in the field because Trey Turner was brutal in the field this year.
Yeah.
And I think he led position players in baseball in errors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he had plenty of those.
So it can only get better?
It can only get better, absolutely.
But I didn't think that was a real possibility that they would flip him.
Well, lots of interesting points from Dombrowski. I know
he did lead
Justin
the league.
Harris, thank you again, by the way, for the compliment on my fashion. If you guys want to be fashionable, and not just in your daily work clothes and whatever else, but also when you're out at the ballpark, out at games, out at the arena, FOCO is the place to be able to purchase some awesome apparel. They've got everything from overalls to T-shirts, hoodies, windbreakers, hats, you name it. FOCO's got you covered. You can use that code PHLY, get 10% off. I've really enjoyed being able to buy some gear from FOCO, and actually was looking to possibly get a couple more things. FOCO, great prices, great deals, some stylish merchandise that you can wear or even rock around your house in terms of like bobbleheads and collectibles and things like that. So head on over to FOCO, use that code PHLY, and get 10% off. Okay,
I'm
now
going to be
that
wearing
we've
the
wrapped
FOCO
up,
overalls tomorrow night with the Budweiser case on my
the
head.
green ones?
No, the overalls we have here, the white
Oh.
and red striped. I'm going to go as Garrett Stubbs, even though I hate him right now.
Oh, that's your Halloween costume.
Yeah, because I didn't get one this year, and I'm just going to throw a case of Budweiser on my head and
Well,
call
that's
it a
good.
day.
I like it. That's very creative, Jamie. I'm excited for you that you have a great costume.
Thank you, FOCO, for my Halloween costume.
And we know you can fit like at least 8 beers in the pockets.
Yeah.
Well, the beauty
so
of
there you
Halloween
go.
is we do the wagon.
Oh, yeah, so that's where you can put everything.
We had a
for
box
sure.
of wine and a case of beer in there last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, listen, guys, now that we've had a chance to wrap up Dave Dombrowski's comments, we'll, of course, keep unpacking things going on around the baseball world, but we want to get an opportunity to give our own grades. You know, at the end of the school year, you get a report card. What kind of grades do you used to get, Jamie?
I hovered around like a 3.0, 3.1, something.
Oh, Tyler? Same?
I was a straight A student until I got to college.
Straight A student.
Nerd.
I was a nerd. I will happily admit that. I still
just
am.
didn't put in the effort. Like,
You were one of those.
But it wasn't like to be cool. I just didn't want to do it.
Oh.
It wasn't like I was like, I'm not going to do my homework.
Well, now
'cause I'm
looking
so
back,
cool.
I'm
It's
like,
just like
was it
I want to
really
go play
even-
basketball. I want to go ride my bike. I want to go play roller hockey. I want to go do this. Like, do your homework, kids.
Nah, I don't know. Looking back on it, I'm like, having a really high GPA of like a 3.7, 3.8 now is like not that big of a deal because nobody cares. Nobody asks me.
Exactly. Once you get into the real world, nobody gives a shit.
I had to ask, so I have a reason to brag about like graduating magna cum laude and having whatever. Yeah, like no.
I mean, it
no,
helps
no.
you get into college.
Does it though? It didn't.
I think.
I guess.
My guidance counselor in high school told my mom that Jamie's a very bright man, but he has to learn to get through. He can't get through life without just his smile. And I went, look at me here.
Wow, was she wrong? She was really wrong. Look at you. He.
Let's not be sexist, Renee. It was a he. Mr. Divine, shout out. But he basically.
I'm sorry, I was assuming it was a woman. I'm not gonna lie. But I should have known a man. That's a male comment.
I just chalked it up to him saying I have a great personality and didn't hear the rest. That's how I took it.
Basically, he told you will make it far with your smile, and you will be able to rely on your personality. Okay, that's fantastic. Well, report cards for me, report cards were always an exciting time.
I hated report cards.
I loved it. It'd be like put it on the fridge. I was that.
Did you do the Pizza Hut would give you like free pizza or something with the A's? Did you guys do that, or am I aging myself again? Jesus. Did you guys do Book It?
Book It?
Ah, jeez.
Book fairs?
Book It at Pizza Hut? Oh, man.
No.
I think they stopped doing that in the early 2000s.
It's okay, move on.
I don't even know what to say to make it better. I'm
You
sorry.
got A's and Pizza Hut would give you a personal pan pizza. If you brought your report card in and showed them your A's. And then the book it. Oh,
The only thing I remember from Pizza Hut, it actually was Domino's. They would let you come make pizza there. Like you could go and like do the whole dough thing. And I did that with my family one time. That was fun. I don't know. Dustin saying his credit union would give $5 for an A.
Nice. That's pretty good.
That's actually a great deal. Yeah, random tangents. I don't know. I don't
was
know.
Awesome.
I'm like
it
trying
actually
to
made
figure
me read because I had free Pizza Hut.
Did you do the reading logs and that stuff?
You would get, I think it was
would get,
stickers if you read a book and brought in some kind of proof that you read it.
We would get a pizza party for depending on what your reading log was.
Yeah, that was up to the teacher, but this was like Pizza Hut. Like you can go to any location.
I'm aware of what you meant. I'm trying to like curve away from it because it wasn't a thing anymore by the time I was in school.
I kind of want Pizza Hut for lunch now.
Maybe, yeah.
All right.
Maybe somewhere
Maybe your parents had
to
sign off on it. Maybe Eugene Krabs was right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. It was my parents, for whatever reason, didn't sign off on that, but okay. Now that we all are talking about pizza, oh, do you remember the Pizza Hut song really quickly?
No.
Okay, darn it. Moving on. There's a whole song. Okay, I'm done. All right, so we're going to give out some grades here. Let's focus. Food makes things easily go left.
Yes.
So
I'm excited to hear your guys' grades.
Taking a look at the entire season, we're going to be basing our report card grades on a couple areas. You know, there's the needs improvement. There's the making progress concepts. We're looking at performance, clutchness, which is now is a word. It sure is a word. Consistency, overall statistics, how they performed in big moments. So that is how we're coming to our overall grade, and we'll break down our reasoning behind it. So let's start at the top. We're going to start with the starting pitchers because every day we're going to get into a different group of players. So why not start with the starting pitchers and work our way through with the ace, Zack Wheeler.
I will admit, I'll kick it off here, and then we'll get you and Tyler's. I will admit in the top two pitchers in the rotation, recency bias 100% affected my grade. Because if you're grading, right, like it's not all bell curve. Like some things are more important than others, and the playoffs to me count for a lot more than an early June start on the road in Pittsburgh. So with Zack Wheeler, I gave him an A+. An A is probably more fair because his performance was down slightly from last year. But the simple fact of the matter is he won 68% of the times he stepped on the mound. And not a lot of guys in Major League Baseball can say that. And this is a weird thing. I'm going to point out two things with him and Nola that baseball is just weird, and sometimes it's hard to understand. So last year when Zack Wheeler was a Cy Young candidate, top 2 or 3 pitcher in the game, they won 63% of the time, and his ERA was almost a point slimmer. So his percentage of wins went up this year with an inflated ERA, whereas last year they won less of his games with a skinnier ERA. I just thought that was one of those weird baseball things where you're like, how does that make sense? He was 19th in baseball in ERA this year, which was down for him, but still pretty damn great. His ERA did rise slightly from 2.82 to 3.61. I think a lot of guys struggled this year with the pitch clock early on. I don't think Zack Wheeler ever said that was a thing, but I think it was. I think it was a product of that. So that went into my grading. He dropped his walk rate slightly, which was good to see. His Ks per 9 stayed the same, and his whip stayed the same, pretty much hovering right around 1. So to me, he's as good as any big game pitcher in baseball, and his dominance in the playoffs elevated probably from an A to that A+. I'll admit that. Where do you fall in on Zack Wheeler?
Yeah, I mean, Zack Wheeler for me is the guy that's messing up the curve for everyone else. There's always that student. It's Zack for sure.
Was it you?
I
knew it.
I also went to a private school for high school, so everybody was extremely smart. I was definitely the kid that was one of the ones messing up the curve.
Try hard.
I am a try hard. Yeah. Still am. So for Zack Wheeler in the 4 seasons, I know on there, we did have mention it's 1 year left on his $118 million deal. I love the fact that his highest quality starts since 2014 that he registered this year, his highest win percentage. And no, he's not perfect. So I'm going to give him an A instead of an A plus because there's still room for growth. But when you look at the postseason and you look at Zack Wheeler's ERA, that 1.95 ERA, 27 2/3 postseason innings, and the ability to step up, clutchness is a huge factor in my grading for my report card. I'm not as nice of a teacher as you are, Jamie, although we're the same spot for Zack. And so I think when you look at Zack Wheeler in the biggest moments, Wheeler's always there. You know what you're going to get. He's going to get strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, and have a postseason like he did, without a doubt, a definite A. To be an A plus, you got to be perfect. So I'm going to give, like, if I had to grade a number, it's like 96. Marshall Lynch, I was Clarence, who went to Cranbrook. Yep. I give him like a 95, 96. He's not like a 99 or 100,
no
but solid A for me from Zack Wheeler. That was my easiest person to grade, without a doubt. And then it got a little bit more difficult as I went.
Yeah, and before we get to Tyler, MBD says, he was first in WAR amongst pitchers and 5th in xERA during the regular season. Yeah. He said my A plus is totally fair, so thank you,
It is totally fair. No, this is one I agree with you on because we don't always agree, but I'm going to agree with you on this one.
Tyler,
A and A plus.
Even though we're waiting on your fancy cartoon head for our graphic images.
Yeah, what's up with that?
What is your grade on Zack Wheeler this year?
Jamie, actually, I agree with you. It's an A plus, and 2 stats that I don't give a damn about when it comes to starting pitching, and this is going to show
ERA?
you. I love it. I think ERA is one of the more important ones. This is probably going to show my my millennial baseball, like, you're a loser. You look at stats too weirdly. I don't care about wins for a starting pitcher.
Yeah, that's irrelevant.
I care about how the game got won.
Sure.
And I don't care about. Oh my goodness, there was a second one, and now it no longer persists in my head. There were 2. I promise you that. Yeah, I promise you that there were 2. But
it'll come back.
Wins is the big one for me. Like, I care about WHIP. I care about ERA.
Is it FIP? Is it strikeouts per 9?
It's something that is just it's a pretty common use stat, and I'll get back to it. But
it'll come to you in the shower tonight.
Probably wins are one to me. Oh, quality starts is the other one. I don't care about quality starts.
Oh,
and
both the ones I listed.
I'm sorry. I apologize. The reason I don't care about quality starts
Tyler.
is because the threshold for a quality start is too low. It requires you to go 6 innings and give up 3 earned runs or less. And if you go 6 innings and give up 3 earned runs or less every single start that you pitched, you're going to come away with a 4.5 ERA for the season, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So to me, that number needs to be elevated just a little bit. Zack Wheeler. The wins and the quality starts, like the Taijuan Walker wins, don't matter to me.
He led the team in wins.
What matters to me is the comfortability factor that you both talked about. When Zack Wheeler takes the mound every 5th day, I feel like this guy is going to give you an opportunity to win. Yeah. And because of that, I think you pair all of those things.
68% of the time.
It works every time.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it works every time.
So that plus the fact that his postseason was electric.
Historic.
A plus is a fair grade, I think.
You mentioned comfortability, Tyler, and you know where I'm comfortable? When I drive out to Wayne or Westchester to hit up Wheelhouse Cards, because Wheelhouse is our go-to sports card gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Absolutely awesome stuff. I know Zach Berman's son, it's his favorite store. They go there regularly, and you should too. Their motto is cards and community, because the love of sports unites us all. Here in the chat, having a good time, dissecting the Phillies season. They carry all your favorite card brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Scheid Vintage Sports. Some awesome stuff. And if you're looking to grade your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host a ton of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. If you could have told me as a child that I could have had my birthday party at a sports card store, I would have been over the moon excited. So stop into either of their stores, Wayne and Westchester. They're open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use that code PHLY in their stores to get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, give them a follow at Wheelhouse Cards on Instagram, or use the QR code you're seeing on the screen right there before you. Now let's move on to Aaron Nola. This is an interesting one. Renee, I led us off the first time. Why don't you lead us off with Aaron Nola, and then I'll give my grade, which I think is going to maybe bother people.
Yes, it will. So Aaron Nola.
Although we're not that far off. I see your grade right here. But
Aaron Nola is not that high up for me. Nola had a very up and down season. It's hard for me to look at this year across Aaron's stats and feel like Aaron deserved an A.
Oh, no.
Aaron Nola, absolutely C+ for me. Very average, and the C+ is like a little bit above average for the reasons of the postseason was steady for the most part, minus that final start against the Diamondbacks was like Game 6. But looking at Nola's postseason performance, ERA at a 2.35, 23 innings pitched in the postseason, 23 strikeouts. Steady. It was the regular season really for me that did it. That slump that Nola was in as things dropped off around late August, early September. Now, Nola did finish the regular season with decent-ish stats, but not great for Nola. 4.46 ERA, a 1.15 WHIP. His 2.1 WAR, the numbers for Nola were not great this season. And I'm giving him a C+ because I don't like the fact that Nola's supposed to be the number 2 guy. And in moments where we needed Nola to be Nola was Ron. In other words, not great. So I personally am not that high up on Nola because of the fact that Nola, as a veteran, as a guy that's been a part of this club his entire career and has been rock solid, had a drop off. He's human. He showed that. Liked how he responded, which is why it was a C+ and not a C or C-. But overall, Aaron Nola to me was just very average this season. I would still bring him back next year, but he was a C+ for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you really said. I was a slightly kinder grader because of the recency bias of the playoffs. He did have a down year. And I'll get into the numbers in a second. But the final 6 games of the year, unfortunately up before his last playoff game, he was great. And for somebody in the past that was September Nola and would always fail you when the season was down the stretch, the past 2 years now, he's stepped up come September and playoff time. And for that, I was a little kinder of a grade with my B-. He was 12-9 on the year, Tyler's favorite stat there. They won 57% of the time he stepped on the mound. Now, I mentioned that with Zack Wheeler. Last year, they only won 45% of the time, and his ERA was a point lower. So that's kind of like, throwing the record aside. I do like the win percentage when the guy's on the mound because to Tyler's point, it's not all about, how you pitched, it's how you won. And the Phillies finally, I think, are giving Aaron Nola a little bit better run support than he had early in his careers. Mm-hmm. His Ks have been in steady decline for 4 years in a row now, but he's still over that 200 K mark. I think he was at 204 this year. His whip did rise slightly from last year, but it kind of came in right around his career average of 1.1. So that wasn't drastically different. He was an innings eater again for you, but his Achilles heel this year was the home run ball. He allowed 32 home runs, which killed him this year. But because of the recency bias, I elevated him to a B-. Tyler, what is your grade on Mr. Nola?
Yeah, it's going to be the second time in a row that I agree with one of you. This time I'm agreeing with Renee. It's a C+ because
I think it's fair.
The one thing that I will give Aaron Nola is he is the model of take the ball every 5th day. So over the course of the last 5 years, he's gone 33, 34, 32, 32 over the course of 4 full seasons, and he pitched 12. He made 12 starts in a 60-game season, which is 20% of the year, 1/5 of your starting rotation. The guy doesn't miss starts. I will give him a ton of credit for that.
Yeah, that's huge.
You mentioned the 32 home runs. It jumped from 19 to 32. That's inexcusable, especially the amount that were conceivably with 2 strikes. It felt like there were a ton of them this season.
Yeah, I wonder
that
again,
were 2-strike.
I wonder if the pitch clock had an effect on him in that regard.
It's certainly plausible.
And something maybe he can work on in this offseason and get better at.
I certainly think you're right. The whip is really good for a guy that gave up that many home runs,
too,
which is kind of surprising. It was that low considering he gave gave up
Same.
32 home runs. I think it was an up and down, inconsistent, statistically driven season that was really propelled by 3 really good postseason starts.
Sure.
I think C+ is fair. It was pretty average.
I was in the C+ B- range. I just slightly elevated it because when the games mattered most, he showed up a little bit better. So
look,
I admit that.
Nola with his 5th season of over 200 strikeouts, finishing with 202. I know MBDB-DBF is saying he was 25th in Major League Baseball for pitchers who threw 90 innings, 363, and he go more of a B-.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, it's
We're
the
all in the same
consistency.
category.
Yeah, it's all
In
the
the
same
same
category.
area.
I think for Tyler and I, definitely the dip comes around the time of the inconsistency, but the postseason, without a doubt,
he
helped
was infuriating at
tremendously.
times
Yeah.
this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right for a 4th inning.
Let's get to the most adorable guy on the team, Renee.
I don't think he's the most adorable.
Oh, he's adorable. I just want to pinch his cheeks. And that's Ranger Suarez. We'll have Tyler lead us off this time since me and you led off the top of the rotation. Tyler, what is your grade for Mr. Ranger?
Yeah,
Ranger
you
Suarez.
guys know how big of a Ranger Suarez fan I am, so this grade is going to hurt me a little bit, but I'm giving Ranger Suarez a C+ as well. Statistically, it was a bad year, and you could talk about the fact that he was probably still not quite ready to pitch. When he came back from injury, it was more of a necessity than anything else.
Yeah.
But we'll flash those numbers up again. And the one thing that stands out to me, batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, all up from a season ago. But the reason that the poor numbers, the 4+ ERA, the really, really high whip, anything getting close to 1.5 really concerns me. But the postseason numbers, once again, Ranger Suarez was that dude that they needed him to be in the postseason.
Well,
so I think
World Series aspirations every year, there's no doubt that the playoff games get weighted heavier than the regular season because that's what we're playing for. We're not playing to make the playoffs anymore.
Yep.
Now the expectation is World Series or bust. So I do think the scale's getting weighted there is more than fair.
So with the regular season and the postseason balancing out, I'm giving Ranger Suarez a C+ as well. I think it's a different circumstance than Aaron Nola, and I expect Ranger to have a much better year next year.
Yeah.
But this year, statistically, he wasn't very good.
Yeah. The boys in the chat agree. Ranger is a cutie, Renee.
I think he's a cutie. I don't know if he's the cutest. I think Yo-Yo's taking the spot for me. I think he's so adorable, little youngster.
Yeah. What do you got?
But I do, to Tyler's point, I'm actually agreeing but a different grade because I'm agreeing in a different way. So Ranger Suarez ended up playing starting 22 games this season, of course having an injury. I think coming back from an injury, especially when you talk about being rushed back, is tough to do. And the regular season, to me, was him getting his footing back, getting back into an in-season rotation. So the postseason was much more of what I looked at for Ranger because of the fact I don't know that he was fully in 100% stride in a consistent enough part of the regular season.
Yeah.
And even the last couple games he pitched, it was like the hangover game. Like those games, to me, those stats were awful and everybody expected them to be bad.
Yeah.
So looking at the postseason, though, is what really elevated it for me. And that's why I gave Ranger Suarez a B, a solid B, because I think that Suarez in his postseason production, 1.93 ERA in the postseason,
great.
80 whip, pitched 18 and 2/3 innings, 19 strikeouts. Like Ranger, I think back to that Ranger Suarez Brandon Fault game, game 3. I know. I'm sorry. Of just scoreless innings. Like Ranger Suarez was a solid number 3. This is your number 3 pitcher, and he's able to go 5-6 innings without giving up a run. So the postseason me was a little bit skewed. So although he was inconsistent, much like Nola, I actually will attribute it to him just having missed the early parts of the season.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I gave him a B as well. Probably got a little extra bump because of how cute he is.
You're that teacher.
It's because of the postseason. This guy has shown you now 2 postseasons in a row. He doesn't give a damn if the game's the most important game in the world. If he's coming out of the bullpen to close an NLCS, he has shown up in every facet you've asked him to. So I did bump it up probably a little bit because of that. So I gave him a B as well. His innings pitched was down, but that was because of the injury. His ERA rose slightly, as Tyler said. Whip also rose slightly and just some. But his Ks per 9 went almost up a full K per 9 innings, which I thought was a really good sign. So I think a B is pretty good there. Moving on to Christopher Sanchez. I'll kick it off here. 100 innings pitched on the year. A really impressive 1.047 whip, which is really, really good. Impressive stuff there. His Ks per 9 were up from last year to almost 8.7. Another incredibly encouraging sign to see there. He had a 3.44 ERA. I mean, that's really effing good. And he dropped his walk rate dramatically by more than half, from 3.8 per 9 all the way down to 1.4 per 9. And because of all of that, I'm going to give Christopher Sanchez a B+. Now, part of my, I guess, weighted scaling system here with Sanchez is a little bit of expectation versus what he gave you. I think my expectation for Christopher Sanchez, like, this is probably the best I thought Christopher Sanchez could be ever. Mm-hmm. And I think he showed you that he not only met that, but he can also potentially get better. So I gave him a B+. I was thoroughly impressed with Christopher Sanchez this year. I almost considered giving him an A-. Like, he kind of wowed me a little bit this year. So a little golf clap from me, Christopher Sanchez. That's good work by you, buddy. Keep it up this offseason, because if you didn't have Christopher Sanchez as your 5th starter there, or 6th or whatever, to get the playoff rotation ready, this season could have been a disaster.
Yeah. I like it. I think for Sanchez coming into this season, wanting to have a healthier season, obviously, after just 3 starts last year and the 15 games played. For Sanchez this year, it was similar to what I'm looking for Ranger next year, of how do you bounce back after having an injured season. And Sanchez, I thought, was steady. I gave him a B- though, because I do think there's just room for improvement with everybody, obviously, but sure. Improvement specifically for Sanchez. I
need to improve. I ate a bunch of Sour Patch strawberries before we came in here for my breakfast. I need to self-improve. So
I like that accountability, Jamie.
Yeah,
I respect that.
I'm eating candy for breakfast. It's not good.
Sanchez in his outings giving up 16 home runs in the course of 18 games started. Not ideal, but also Sanchez was solid. You talk about that whip, the 3.44 ERA. I think Sanchez, unfortunately, in the postseason was kind of set up to fail in a bit because he just was thrown into.
I didn't think he was that bad. I thought Rob should have let him in more.
No, but it was a situation where you would have liked him to be able to go longer, and he wasn't ready. He wasn't.
Well, he didn't pitch for 2 series there.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. That's
and I think
the
that's
frustrating
a fault
part
of Rob Thompson for not, either getting him in some games here or there or whatever. But
bingo.
I agree. That's tough to sit out 2 series and then come into an NLCS.
And that's where I think he was, in a sense, set up to fail, because you, especially for pitchers, to be out for 2 series and have a few weeks in between your last game. The last game he played was 1 inning, and then before that, it was a week prior that he started. It was a very long time between that last inning he pitched versus the next game in the NLCS. So I think, unfortunately, for Christopher Sanchez, it is hard to look at his postseason bigger picture, but still had a steady postseason for the most part. Solid 3.86 ERA in that 1 game started. But I would like to see a nice, healthy, full season of Sanchez, which is why I'm giving him a B-, where he can truly step up. I want Christopher Sanchez to be the next guy right behind Ranger Suarez consistently. So I'd love to see.
Totally.
He does, and that's why I'm going to give him a B- because it's a challenge. It's progress. It needs improvement, is what I'm grading him on a lot of areas for Sanchez, because I think he's got the making. I love what he brings on the mound as a taller frame, the way he throws the ball. I think he's steady and can be that guy, but I'd like him to become more of a A-, B+ type of a pitcher for the Phillies. I think he can do that. Tyler, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think looking at Christopher Sanchez this season was kind of out of nowhere. It was a left field type of season, and I think my expectations for him were to eat innings in some capacity, maybe in a slightly better scale of Bailey Falter a season ago. And what Christopher Sanchez gave you over the course of the season was consistency, because you knew exactly what you were going to get out of Christopher Sanchez's start. Since he became a full-time starter back in June, he was the one thing I didn't realize was how damn good he was against lefties this year. A 1.14 ERA with a 0.6 WHIP, and that has something to do with, you were talking about, Renee, him being that tall downhill type thrower, because he doesn't throw all that hard. He's 92, 93, but you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. He's going to be really good against lefties. He struggled against righties, and you guys talk about the RAV4 fourth inning. Like, we got to come up with something for Sanchez's second inning, because usually it's the second, third inning where he struggles a little bit, and then you get like 3, 4, 5 or 4, 5, 6 where he settles in, and then you look at a box score of 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 5 Ks, 2 walks, and you go, well, you gave him a chance to win again. So for this season, based on expectations and what he did, I'm giving Christopher Sanchez a B.
Yeah, and I like it. I mean, as you mentioned, just became a full-time starter in June. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do next year. What he brings is something different to the Phillies. And you know what else can bring you something different to your face? Shady Rays. Shady Rays is great to gear up for the season with some quality shades built to last. These shades are going to have you out on the slopes, out at the beach, out at the games, wherever you're going, with some premium polarized shades. And you can also be able to buy good-looking sunglasses that will not break the bank. That much better. Good prices, good, nice longevity of sunglasses, because not only will Shady Rays give you stylish eyewear, but they also will support you if you ever lose or break your sunglasses and need to get them repaired and replaced. Shady Rays has you covered. So that's not all, because Shady Rays now has a great deal for you guys. If you go on over to Shady Rays and use that code PHLY, you get 50% off when you buy some Shady Rays. That's 50% off of buying 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. You can try them for yourself. If you don't believe us on how great Shady Rays is, you can head on over and see the fact that there have been 250,000 people over that number that have rated them 5 stars. So go over to shadyrays.com, use that code PHLY, and be able to check out the snow goggles, the sunglasses, the eyewear that they've got. Because Shady Rays, not just for shady people, Eugene Krabs, as you're saying in the chat, but a great spot to offer insane protection and all of eyewear all year round for great prices. I don't know if it gets any better than that. But unfortunately, where we're going next with starting pitchers may not get better, as we've got to get to the final. Yeah, listen, we started high, we're working low. We already did Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and Sanchez. We've got Walker, Strom, and Lorenzen left. Time is ticking. Jamie, I told you this show was going to go longer than an hour. Just saying. I was right again, because guys, FYI, I'm very petty sometimes, and I like to make it known when I'm right. And prior to the show, Jamie was like, this might go 45 minutes. If it goes 45 minutes, I should say. Let me get you correct. If it goes less than an hour, it'll be fine. And here we are over an hour.
Yeah, of course. So
Let's
Matt
get into
Strom is the man. And we're in here so long, my computer's almost dead.
We're going to go next with Taijuan Walker.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we'll start with Taijuan Walker. It's okay, Jamie.
Forgot about him.
Right again.
Yeah.
Just keep you splashing that smile, Jamie.
Yeah, look, I went C+. I see your grade here. I think yours is probably more right. The only reason I kept him at a C+ was because they got 15 wins, and sometimes bad pitchers get good run support from teams. A lot of times it's because you're on the back end of a rotation and you're playing the other team's 4 or 5. So when you compare Taijuan Walker to other 4s around baseball, it's fine. Did they overpay for a 4? Yeah, probably. But I think for the first kind of like 3 months of the season, he gave you a chance to win like the majority of times he was out there. And my Mets buddies always warned me about this. First half Taijuan is great. Wait for post All-Star break Taijuan. And it kind of lived up to fruition. I probably, in hindsight, might drop him down a little bit, but I gave him a C+. I'm going to stand by it. It was 15 wins. And for whatever reason, the Phillies bats showed up with Taijuan. So C+. Might be a little friendly, but, as a number 4, I'm kind of cool with that.
Okay, Barbara's saying Walker was better than Nola for most of the season.
He was really good for the first 3 months. Yeah.
And so my grade that I'm giving Taijuan Walker, I'm going to lead with the grade and explain why. I gave him a C-. I did originally have him as a D+. And I bumped him up because as I was thinking about it, when we're talking about games you start and looking at the whole season, Taijuan Walker did have the most wins across all starting pitchers for the Phillies, which is wild with those 15 wins. Overall ERA at a 4.38, a 131 whip, pitched 172 and 2/3 innings, 138 strikeouts. And Walker was great, as you talk about, Barbara, for most of the season. And you were mentioning it, first 3 months. But my issue with Taijuan Walker is when I look at the postseason stats. Oh, there are none, because Walker was not able to pitch in the postseason. The only player across the lineup that did not get in. And for Walker to have such a solid regular season and not be someone you can consider for the postseason, that is why you are a C-, because come playoff time, as we talked about earlier, that's when it matters most. And it's great to see what your regular season stats are. To me, that's almost a warm-up of, okay, when we get into the postseason, let's elevate those, be even better. And Taijuan Walker never got the call. They did not feel comfortable putting him in at all. He's not good in relief situations. I know Tyler and I were talking about it. You and I have talked about it. His first innings were abysmal.
Yeah, he's not a bullpen pitcher, so why is he on the roster?
Right. So my concern is Taijuan Walker, and as he talks about, and we've seen him tweeting and in the gym working out. This is a good offseason for Taijuan Walker to really step things up, because you should be able to be a guy that can get starts in the postseason. You should be able to be a guy that, if you're on the roster, that can get in an inning. So I'm giving you a C- and instead of a D+, because Taijuan Walker was unable to be used in the postseason, and that's unacceptable to me, that you have absolutely a steady regular season, Eugene Krabs, a steady regular season, and can't get in the postseason and get called on at all. Even in a relief situation, nothing. So C- for me. I know, Tyler, you were also on my end pretty similar.
Yeah, it's even lower. Taijuan Walker stinks. I'm just going to be very blunt about it. He has nothing left. I think his 4.38 ERA is really looks a lot better than what his season was, because, like you guys talked about, his first couple of months were pretty good. But the reason as to why he didn't pitch, we've all talked about it now. The 24 earned runs over the course of 30 2/3 innings pitched, first innings pitched. It's a 7.1 ERA, and the WHIP is gross.
Yeah, 1.31 is pretty gross.
It's not even just across. I'm talking about just the first innings. It's 1.88.
Yeah.
That means he's giving up almost 2 base runners every time he takes the mound in the first inning. There's 2 reasons as to why this guy is going to pitch for the Phillies for the foreseeable future. Is because, one, they don't have enough arms to not, and then the fact that he's got another 3 years left on this deal. Otherwise, I would not be upset in any way that if he didn't pitch anymore.
Yeah, but I know Scott's saying that Walker had the first inning, and Barbara, you're saying as a number 4 star, you'd give Walker a B+. As a number 2, you'd give Nola. See, definitely let us know in the chat as we're giving our grades.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
what
from
you
everybody.
would grade these guys as well, because we're just using our own judgment based off what we've seen this season. Love to have you guys weigh in. Eugene Krabs is warning you, Tyler. But listen, we all are in agreement that Taijuan Walker has the makings, much like we said with Sanchez. It's the same thing applies here for Walker. The difference is he needs to improve. He did not step up. And when you look at the first inning, that's how you're starting games. That's how you're pitching. Your first time on the mound for each game, that's the numbers that you're producing, is unacceptable. So I know, Jamie, you're a much more are you the Miss Honey of teachers over here? You're giving out.
Well, I just think you have to compare him to other 4s around Major League Baseball. Like, I know he's paid better than most 4s, but for a back end of the rotation guy that can eat some innings up for you, give your team 15 wins, which I know isn't a pitcher stat, but I think I don't like Taijuan Walker, but I think a C+ was fair.
I do like to. So that's part of it.
He was, Nola and Wheeler kind of struggled a little bit. Maybe because they pitched so late into last season. Taijuan Walker gave you some stability in the rotation for those 3 months of the first 3 months of the year, and I can't discount that when giving him the grade.
Yeah, I think it also is a matter of what your grading rubric is on. We all have different rubrics that we're looking at as well. And I think for Walker, those first 3 months, and as Tyler talked about, that's really what boosted up his numbers, because that's when he was strongest. And then as the season wore on, you saw a decline. But overall, solid, a C, a D, solid average score. My thing is, I'm also looking at across the board, where can these guys, where should they be? Where can they get to? Because the bar is raised higher here in Philly for our pitchers. And let's continue to raise the bar high. Let's talk next. We've got Matt Strom, who we're going to take a look at as well.
Because he did start 10 games for you this year.
10 starts, so we have to take a look at him.
This is exclusively Matt Strom, the starting pitcher. We'll grade him as a bullpen pitcher later this week when we do the bullpen groupings. But for the process of this exercise, he was just graded on his starting pitching performance. Tyler, why don't you kick us off with old Stromboli?
Yeah, so I think that Matt Strahm as a starter is there needs to be studies on what Matt Strahm did for the Phillies as a starter, even though it was only 10 starts and he didn't throw a lot of innings. And I may be hypocritical talking about ERA in this situation because it was a 4. But what Matt Strahm did was steady a ship that was, I guess you can't even say it was sinking because the season had started, it had just begun, right? You didn't have Ranger Suarez healthy, and Christopher Sanchez wasn't available yet. And Bailey Falter, who, remember, it feels like he was there 700 years ago, but he was on the team when the season began. And Matt Strahm gave you stability, whether it was 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. There was a consistency to his starts, especially his first couple where he was really, really good. I think he had like an 11 strikeout performance against the Rockies.
He did. I have that in my notes.
And I know that he gave
up
up
5 1/3 innings.
It was really, really impressive. Matt Strahm's bullpen numbers, I'm going to give him a better grade when we talk about the bullpen in a couple weeks, but I think Matt Strahm gets a B. For his 10 starts as a starter because he gave them what they needed him to do.
Yeah, and I'll just take the torch and run. I got even more irrational. I gave him an A as a starting pitcher, but it's based on, like, he was graded differently from everybody else because he's not a starting pitcher and because my expectations were so low. You desperately needed somebody to come in, eat some innings for you, and keep you in games. That was literally the only job. And I think he did that. He ate innings for you to the extent of which he was able as a bullpen arm. He kept most of his earned runs to 3 or less. A couple opportunities, several. He gave you 0 earned runs. And as Tyler talked about, he did have the 11 Ks in 5 1/3 out in Colorado. So I expected nothing and for it to be bad. And he did exactly what you needed, which was kept you in games, gave you some innings. So for that reason, I gave him an A. And if you want to call me Miss Honey, I think that's fine and fair. But my expectations were the toilet, and it exceeded that. So I got a little drunk with my Matt Strahm grade. And maybe a B+ is more fair, but I went A. Fuck it.
It's all right, Jamie. I like picking at Jamie, guys, because it's funny. It's very...
I think he stepped into the role for something that he's not really familiar with doing really well. So
he did. And I know I'm going to actually go with the same grade. I'm going to go with the same grade as Eugene Krabs. I gave him a B-. Not a bump because of the hair, but because of the fact that I thought when you look at those 10 games exclusively and you rule out the others, he did exceed expectation, without a doubt. 11 strikeouts in that game that they lost 5-0 to Colorado, and he gave up 3 runs. I mean, it was still better than what many expected, but it was a tough role to step into, as you want to talk about being set up for failure. I would say in this sense, just being set up with the odds stacked against you a little bit more. And Strahm was solid, so I'm not gonna go as high as like an A, but I won't say he was like a C or a D or an F because I think he was just solid. It was just middle of the pack, nothing too high, nothing too low. Steady Strahm is what you got from Matt in those 10 starts. Of course, we will look at him specifically as a reliever.
Signing. Yeah, I think he was a really good signing.
But I think for being thrown into that role, solid, very solid. B- because I just think there were some dips. But yes, Barbara, the Union did win. We will have a Philadelphia Union show to recap the win. I know that will air Tuesday and Thursday as well. Eugene Krabs is saying Jamie's got a thing for dudes with long hair.
Maybe.
I'm not gonna make any comments because I've picked at you enough today. So I'm just gonna let that live right there.
Well,
just leave that there.
You know what's better than a B+ grade, and that's the Game Time app. They get an A+ because I just used Game Time this past Friday to go to a concert in town and had a great experience with the app. I want to share it with you guys so you can also have great experiences with the Game Time app. You can use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. I went to see My Morning Jacket at the Met right up the street on Friday night, and it was the least stressful process ever to get tickets on the app. Game Time is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy shows. I think I'm actually going to a stand-up comedian on Saturday. I'll probably dive back into the Game Time app today. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets with the best price guarantee. Stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. They have flash deals, last-minute tickets, every kind of event in your area. And one of my shout-outs is, of course, for Tyler's mom, Eugene Crabb. She used the Game Time app to go to Queen. And you know what she probably did? She probably looked at the images of her seat views, which, depending on the event you're going to, is a very good thing to take a look at. Game Time is the place for last-minute deals. Forget planning months in advance. They have deals right up to the day of the event. Flash deals for sports, concerts, all that stuff. So snag the tickets without the stress of Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. You'll be done in seconds on the app. It's so easy. Check it out. It's awesome.
All right. That is awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. We got
one more pitcher
now. Michael Lorenzen, our final starting pitcher for the Phillies, as we're recapping and giving grades. Again, if you have not had a chance to do so, like, comment, subscribe, share your grades with us as well, and join in the conversation. Now, Michael Lorenzen, in 11 games played, made 7 starts. So we're going to take a look at those 7 starts specifically.
One of them was really good.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
The other 6 were not.
So I'm going to give Michael Lorenzen a C. I think...
Who's Miss Honey now? I don't even know who Miss Honey is.
No. I had a feeling you didn't understand my reference.
Yeah, I don't know.
You didn't read
Tyler?
those books? That was the one with her, and then she was the nice one, and then the witch was the mean teacher, right?
In which books? Matilda?
No, a different one. Then never mind.
Miss Honey's from Matilda.
No.
Which books are you talking about?
Do you know the ones I'm talking about? So there was like a nice teacher, and the kids were really bad, and then she would like become the mean witch-looking teacher.
It was a series?
And scare the kids. Yeah.
It was Miss Honey?
No, I thought that's what her name was. I don't remember what her name was.
Well, who's Miss Honey now? Anyway, back to your Lorenzen grade.
Yeah, now I'm lost. Okay, C. I was there. C. So Michael Lorenzen is a C for me. I do like the fact that Lorenzen, after not being on the roster in the first 2 games for the wild card matchup, brought into the roster, was steady in those innings pitched with a 1.50 whip. In those 2 2/3 innings pitched in the postseason, but overall Lorenzen was just average. Like this was like a weird one for me because I feel like there's just not enough of a sample size, but also Lorenzen was just there. Like he was just there.
He was a failure of a trade. Let's call it what it was. He stunk when he got here. I'm giving him a D. The no-hitter, obviously, what a cool moment. It was great. The rest of the time, he
That's
sucked.
what bumped him up to a C for me.
Yeah,
I mean, that one, that's major boosts and points. It was
heartstrings
historic.
here
It was
for
exciting.
me with the no-hitter. Yeah, it was great. That was really
And then
cool.
it was all downhill from there.
His mom was there. They were crying. It was beautiful.
Everybody was crying.
Hey, that's the only reason he didn't get an F. That was a wasted trade. Really did nothing for you. His ERA shot up from a 3.5 in Detroit to a 5.5 while here. His whip shot up from a 1.09 in Detroit to a 1.45 here. His Ks dropped and his walks increased. It was a wasted trade. It was a failed opportunity. D.
So, okay, I hear that. I do hear that. I just also go back to the fact that it takes time sometimes for these guys to gel and get a groove. You go from Detroit to Philly. You're traded in the middle of the season. You come and you have an incredible, historic performance, and now the bar has raised even more because, like, whoa, we got Lorenzen. He's got no hitter, made all these incredible things happen in game 1, and then the pressure broke him a bit. So I'm going to give him a C because that first game in Philly was awesome. It was fun to watch.
Towards F.
But I think that with a full off season, a full spring training, a full time of gelling with the guys and hanging with the fellas and feeling more comfortable and feeling like you belong in the clubhouse, I think he's going to be a decent pitcher for the Phillies. So I'm going to go C because there are some other factors off the mound that I play into this that I think are partly why he struggled, and after that incredible performance, never was the same.
I'm very curious what Tyler has here. Tyler, what is your grade on Michael Lorenzen?
Yeah, everything Jamie just said, yes. Michael Lorenzen will never throw a pitch for the Phillies again. He's a free agent this offseason. They're not going to sign him. Listen, the first two starts were fun, right? 17 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts, the no-hitter. After that, an 8.01 ERA and 30 1/3 innings pitched. He stunk after the first two starts, and we'll always have the no-hitter. Right, we'll always have Paris, I guess, but good luck in your free agency search because you are no longer a Philly.
Wow, Tyler Zulli and Jamie Lynch, cutthroat.
I mean, it was a wasted trade. The trade deadline, and one of the days this week we're dedicating to each position group. One is going to be Dave Dombrowski front office / managers, and I think the trade deadline was perhaps the only stain on Dave Dombrowski's record, but we'll get into that later this week.
We will definitely get into that. Yeah, it's interesting when you really take a step back and you just individually look at every guy, from players to management and decisions, that it really makes you think differently when you look back on the season. So we gave our grades. We've got our final list of grades here for all of our starting pitchers. Of course, Tyler weighed in with his as well, and pretty similar in some areas and different in others. But overall, let us know your thoughts on where each starting pitcher grades on your rubric. Now, the rubric of clutchness, performance, consistency, stats, wins, whatever the rubric is for you. Those were some of the things that we were keeping an eye on. So glad that you enjoyed it, Barbara. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and let us know your thoughts on grades, because we've got more grades coming your way. We're just getting started. We started with the top.
Infield tomorrow? Is that what we said?
I don't remember.
I'll have to look in the
I don't know. I thought it was
maybe, I don't know. Whatever. We're going to do one of the offensive positions tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to continue to break it down. And each show this week, we're going to have a different set of grades that we're giving out. We started with starting pitchers. We'll have more to come. We'll give you the list. I don't even know. I'm trying to find the message, but I couldn't. But either way, more grades coming your way, because we've got Miss Honey. What teacher would you be? I don't know what. You're definitely Miss Honey. Tyler, I don't know. I think I'm Professor. I don't know any other teachers from TVs. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll have more. We'll have more names. But thank you, Eugene Krabs, for giving us an A+.
Why am I forgetting? Feeney, yeah, Mr. Feeney.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay, Eugene Krabs gave us an A+, and Tyler got an A++. There you go. Tyler killed it.
Look at you, Tyler.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, be sure to follow, subscribe, like, stay up to date with all we're talking about on PHLY Phillies podcast each and every episode, bringing you plenty of off-season content as we are grading the Phillies here on the show. For Tyler, Jamie, myself, have a great rest of your day. Looking forward to seeing some Halloween costumes tomorrow, of course. Coming festive. Are you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you?
I
mean, your costume is super simple. Why wouldn't you wear it?
Yeah.
And it fits the show.
As long as that classifies as a costume, I'll be here.
I'll be here.
12:30 tomorrow as well, Barbara.
Yeah, so we are 12:30 every day this week, making it nice and simple for you that you're able to tune in at the same time every day. Bring your costumes. Let us know what your costumes are going to look like, because we will have costumes as well on the show tomorrow and plenty to talk about. So for all of us here at PHLY, have a great rest of your day. We will see you guys next time.
Y'all silly like the mayor.